Let's continue covering our board meeting. Kind of on my own this week. Rippy is down in California, and I don't know, Pootie, who knows what Pootie's up to. He's not doing Trimet, so just me again. Just like it always was. Anyway, I'm going to watch this meeting. I don't care if nobody else watches it. I'm watching it. I want to know what they're doing. Let's go.
Invite a motion to approve Resolution 21-03-14.
Oh, yeah. Another, let's see, this was, what is this? Yes, they're going to install lighting. They're going to have a contract to install lighting. Because, they can't have their own maintenance people do it, right? No, hell no. Why have your own union people do it when you can contract it out? Yes, Trimet.
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
Here's your new board president, by the way, right there in the bottom left. I'm not a fan.
And all those in favor of Resolution 21-03-14, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nobody.
And any abstentions?
No.
The resolution passes.
Kathy looks thrilled.
And that is the end of the resolutions for today. Next on the agenda is the first reading of the ordinance. And Ms. Devine, can you walk us through that?
Yes, I was hoping that it would be up on I can pull it up, but I was hoping it would be up on the screen to read. Hold on one second. Sorry. There. Jeff's starting to share. Thank you, Jeff. I have it on my
All
YouTube.
right, what do we got here? Let's see. Board of Directors. I covered all this on my blog, but God, if I remember. Consider and approve the Title VI equity. Yeah, that's this Title VI equity analysis. It's bureaucracy gone wild. It's just like they add this whole level of bureaucracy. Who knows why? It doesn't do anything. But, anytime they can add a level of bureaucracy, they do it because it pays.
Okay, ordinance number 363 of the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon, adopting service changes and updating route designations. Yeah. This is the first reading and public hearing.
Yeah, the service changes they made unilaterally without any public hearings, without any comments. They just slashed the services. And they said, oh, it's COVID-19. We have to slash everything. Jesus. Just like they did in 2007 and 2008. Those of you who were around paying attention back then. Oh, it's a recession. We have to slash everything. They're goodbye Fairless Square. Goodbye employee benefits. It's the same bullshit. Everything. They just manufacture these crises out of thin air. And then they, it's, what is it? Action, reaction, solution. This is a Hegelian concept. Our leaders, with quotation marks around leaders, because they're not my leader and they're not your leader, they're imposed on us, know how to create what they want by creating these situations and then being the solution. Here, oh my God, look, we have COVID-19, shut down the world. Who cares if 1 million people die of starvation or 10 million? Well, you have to save you from COVID-19.
So I believe the next step is to convene a public hearing on this ordinance.
Another useless
There's not a vote today. Is there anyone
convene another useless public hearing
to testify at the public hearing?
Yeah, right.
We have one person.
One person stuck around for this. Oh, and by the way, this is 3 hours into the meeting. They put here, hang around for 3 hours so you can make your comment. At least you don't have to go. At least you can do this from your home now. You don't actually have to be there.
We get him pulled up. And then,
so what do they do?
I believe we have a second as well.
All right.
So I'm going to start with Dan McFarling. Laura, are we doing 3 minutes for this?
Let's do 3 minutes.
Maybe Bauman will be a little bit more tolerant of the public speakers, because because Warner was horrible.
All right. So, Dan, I've just unmuted your microphone. Can you give us the sound check?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Giddings.
Oh, hold on.
If I turn off my speaker,
much better.
hopefully you can hear me. I won't be able to hear you, but I'll turn it back on as soon as I'm done testifying. If you hear me, would you please nod your head? Okay, thank you. Trimet's job is moving people. The task of transit is not to move vehicles from point A to point B. Proposed changes focus on movement of vehicles.
What?
Changes to number 75 and 77 disconnect buses from the Hollywood Transit Center. It requires people transferring between bus and light rail to walk longer distances. It requires people, including those with mobility issues, to cross busy streets. Changes to Line 19, a route I frequently rode in the 1960s, abandons transit-dependent neighborhoods on Southeast Rex and 32nd Avenue. While my postgraduate education and career were in public health, I have been advocating for effective transportation policy since high school, traveling to 3 continents to experience efficient transportation systems that serve people. The stops proposed for abandonment on Line 19 attract significant ridership. The new route is faster, but it follows a chain-link fence adjacent Eastmoreland Golf Course. Trimet passenger count will serve fewer people. A lower score might be desirable in golf, but public transit is not golf. We need leadership who understand transit.
Wow.
Please vote down Ordinance 363.
Please vote down. They're not going to vote it down. I respect your passion. It's highly commendable. But, you know, these people they're not there for you. They're there for the administrative staff.
If you are unsure, table the motion until you understand the score. Do not adopt these poorly planned changes. Your job is to serve the people of Portland.
Yeah, I wish.
I would like to add a footnote if my time is not out, and it appears it is not. When Doug Kelsey was quoted in the media as saying transit ridership is not a key measurement of transit performance, my jaw dropped. Transit ridership is one of the most important measurements of appropriate performance. I hope the Trimet board will work to increase ridership and service to people. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you can't argue with them. It's all factual, makes total sense. And did Doug Kelsey say that? I think I do remember something about that. We already know that Trimet doesn't care about the ridership. They don't care about that at all. Trimet is a development agency. That's what they care about. And that's all the focus of everything they do is around development.
Thank you for your comments. We have another member of the public to testify.
Yes. Next up is Heather McCrary. Heather, you are unmuted.
Great, thank you. I'm Heather McCary. I'm the Executive Director of Explore Washington Park, and I'm here to state my support of the Line 63 route changes before you today. We're a nonprofit that connects people to the culture, diversity, and really the wonder of nature in Portland's Signature Park. And we do this by providing free shuttle service that links the Washington Park Max Station to the entire park. And for those of you who don't know, the park is 400 acres, and the Max Station is located in the southwest portion of the park, which is about 2 miles away from the other end. So our free shuttle connects riders to all the park venues, and that includes Hoyt Arboretum, the International Rose Tusk Garden, both of which are free, as well as the Portland Japanese Garden. We also provide a free shuttle service to off-site parking lots when the main lots fill. And before COVID, between these 2 free shuttles, we provided around 150,000 rides annually. We also provide pre-trip information and on-site visitor service staff. Our efforts at Explore Washington Park have helped create a 56% increase in the percent of people using transit to get to the park between 2014 and 2019. And we've always had a really strong partnership with Trimet, with JC Benata serving on our board, who's been wonderful.
Oh, good
We
old
believe the
JC.
proposed route change in front of you today would better serve tourists who are staying downtown who want to visit Portland's iconic park and the gardens in it. It also serves people who are living on the east side who currently have to transfer to a MAX line and then again to a bus in the park to access the gardens. This would allow them to make one transfer at the Transit Mall for direct access. We have attended the Arlington Heights Neighborhood Association meetings, and they also have a representative who serves on our board, and they have expressed some concerns about reduction in service. To address some of these concerns, we've agreed to run the Washington Park free shuttle 7 days a week, year-round. It's currently seasonal, and to fully cover that cost. We also agree to serve stops in the neighborhood with our free shuttle. Our free shuttle frequency is 30 minutes in the winter months and about 10 minutes in the summer months. So I truly appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today, and we always appreciate the strong partnership with Trimet.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any other members of the public ready to testify, Jeff?
Yes, next up is Brett Horner. Brett, go ahead. Brett, you are off mute.
Oh, Brett.
Okay, Brett, we're not getting any audio. Send me a message in the chat if you're able to get that worked out. Jim Howell is up next.
Jim.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I want to agree with those who want to see this ordinance not taking it, especially I'm going to focus on 3 lines, the line 66, 75, and 77 in the Hollywood district, and also how it relates to the transit-oriented development of the Hollywood Transit Center. Moving the transit out of the transit center and calling the new project a transit hub is somewhat cynical. Anyone that transfers at that station, and by the way, that station is the 6th busiest station in the Trimet MAX system, and there's about 7,000 people a day that board or deboard trains and buses at the Hollywood Transit Center. And to require those people to make those transfers across a 5-lane busy highway, Halsey, in order to and travel another block to access the stairs going up to the light rail is intolerable. I've used that station for 35 years, and if I have to do that, I'm going to quit using MAX because it's just absolutely tenable, and you're going to lose a lot of passengers by causing this disruption. And the other thing is the 77 line, which by taking it off of Broadway, you're moving that line away from the Hollywood East, which is a high-rise senior center for disabled, and making them walk a block and a half to Halsey Street, cross 5-lane Halsey Street, catch the bus, which currently stops right at the front door today. And this, in order to save 1 minute of running time, is not very smart, considering the fact that it's on the 77, which is at least 15-mile long route. So 1 minute is going to not make that much difference. So please eliminate line 66, line 75, and line 77 from the ordinance if you do pass it. There are other things in the ordinance, but it looks like I'm running out of time, so I'll stop there.
Yeah, he's good. He knows his stuff.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Brett Horner?
It's heartbreaking to listen to these people appealing to these appointed elites to do the right thing when we know they're not going to do the right thing. We know how this public testimony makes no difference to them.
Can we get Brett back on?
Brett, your mic is unmuted.
Brett's not going to be testifying today.
Brett, if you are there, you can go ahead.
Poor Brett. Oh, well. Couldn't figure it out.
Okay, looks like it's not working out still.
Yeah.
Move on.
We can try one more time at the end, but I'm going to move on to Ian McKenzie. Ian?
Hi. Good morning. My name is Ian McKenzie. I live on Southeast Belmont Street and I'm a regular rider of Line 15. I'm here in support of the proposal to reroute the bus onto Southwest Alder Street in downtown. In non-pandemic times, I take Line 15 to get to and from my job in downtown Portland. I also use it to get to and from the apartment of my boyfriend, who lives in Northwest. I'm not saying that we're dating each other just because there's a direct bus line between our homes, but it definitely doesn't hurt. When I take the bus to work, I get off at the Southwest 5th and Washington stop in downtown. I then have about a 5-minute walk to the office. In the evenings, I leave and walk straight out of the office onto Southwest Salmon Street. And so the proposal to move the bus off Southwest Salmon Street is going to be a little less convenient for me at the end of the day. However, I support this proposal because I know that running the eastbound bus on Southwest Salmon Street is a much less direct route through downtown than running it on Southwest Alder Street would be. Every time I take the bus from my boyfriend's back to mine, I wonder why on earth the bus is taking this meandering route with lots of turns, which delay travel between Northwest and Southeast. And I think this is an important thing to consider. Transit has to be useful to and from downtown, of course, but it also has to be useful for getting between different neighbourhoods. These kind of journeys are harder to serve by transit, and so when you have opportunities like this to make them a little bit easier, you should take them. My understanding is that one of the reasons this common sense rerouting hasn't already been done is because Alder Street does see a lot of traffic in the evening peaks. I also understand that Trimet is partnering with Peabot to add bus lanes on Alder to address this issue. That's the kind of partnership I want to see more of in the future, and I thank everybody at both agencies for their collaboration here. Thank you.
Well, of course, there'll be some people that are happy with it, but you have a line that's been operating in a certain way for many, many years, and of course, it's going to create a tremendous confusion. Of course, what do they care, right? The technocrats don't care about that. They don't care about the confusion it creates. They make changes because that's what they do. They have to justify they make these changes. Sometimes I just wonder if they do it just to show that they're doing something. Of course, there are going to be some people that are happy and some people that are sad. I don't know. I mean, I used to drive that bus. A lot of people got on at Sam, and that was a major transfer point there. I mean, they'll move it down to Alder. Where's the goddamn Max, you know? It's from Pioneer Square down a ways. I don't know. It is more direct. As a bus driver, I'd be all for it because, you know, it will save that whole loop. As a rider, I think that's a negative.
Thank you for your testimony.
All right, I'm going to try Brett one last time. Brett, if you are there, you can go ahead and speak.
Brett can't do it. Poor Brett.
I might suggest, Brett, because of these technical difficulties, we'd be happy to see your testimony in written form. Please feel free to send an email to the board. Is there anyone else ready to testify?
That is it.
Well, the most credible transit advocate is Jim Howe. Not only has he worked inside Trimet, but he's been a transit advocate for decades and knows the most about the systems. Poor guy, he doesn't get anything. They never give him what he wants either.
All right. I understand that there is a staff presentation regarding this ordinance, so we'll turn it over to the staff for that right now.
Let's see it.
Thank you, Director Bauman. Let me introduce this here. I want to bring in Director of Mobility Planning and Policy, Tom Mills, to provide us some detail to the proposal, and also Carl Green, who will give us an update with Title VI. Tom?
Thank you, Sam, and thank you, Director Bauman and the rest of the board today for having us to speak about the FY22 proposed service changes. Jeff, if we could move to the next slide. Many of you, these are the slides for the Title VI analysis. Carl Green will be presenting.
Give me one moment and I will get yours.
Sure, no problem. As those of you who've been on the board for the last so many years have probably been used to seeing these presentations in which we're adding service. But because of COVID, we have not been able to add service. We did not add service in FY21. And for this proposal, we are not adding
because of COVID. Everything is COVID. You know, we couldn't answer. We can give you a raise, and we can have no cuts to capital projects, but we can't add service. Isn't that convenient?
But we are looking to make changes in regards to efficiency, trying to make the service operate more efficiently, faster for our customers. And what that oftentimes means is eliminating deviations that take customers out of direction and add travel time to their trip. Thank you, Jeff. So again, this proposal is cost neutral because of the revenue decrease due to COVID and focused on service efficiencies that we believe will attract riders, safety improvements, and other no-cost service improvements. With that,
they're not going to attract any riders until they get service back to normal. I mean, this is just, it's frustrating to watch this because these people are in another world, completely divorced from reality.
Let's go ahead and jump right into the proposal itself. Jeff, if we could, thank you. And what I have here, I have the lines listed numerically, except I've moved the 15 to the very end because one, it's the most complicated, and two, it's the line that we've received the most letters and emails about. So I thought we'd talk about that last. First, we're looking at a portion of line 11, which serves the Rivergate area. And as you can see, there's a tail there on the line that goes up to Rivergate Boulevard and Ramsey Street. This tail takes about 8 minutes to go back and forth. During pre-COVID, we did about 8 round trips per day on this, and we were only getting a handful of boardings and alightings. And so next slide, we would like to propose that we remove that tail. The ridership on that has decreased even more so during COVID, and one of the companies that was driving the ridership has had severe layoffs. So we don't really want to inconvenience our customers any further to have them just go out and back and not take or drop off anybody along the way. In the next slide, please. The next slide is line 19. We've heard a little bit about this from our commentators.
So they eliminated
this actually encompasses 2 changes. The line 19 typically serves Milwaukee and Bybee Street, and then oftentimes it does one of 2 things. It either deviates and serves Union Manor, which is a senior facility, or it goes beyond there and deviates and goes along 28th Rex and 32nd Avenue. We like to refer to this as the Rex Loop. Both of these deviations really don't generate significant ridership at all. And again, we are inconveniencing a lot of customers who are already on board. We want to make their trip faster. So we have reached out to Union Manor. We've spoken with them. And we've come to an agreement that we think that hourly service between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m., 7 days a week would be appropriate. However, for the Rex Loop, we really want to focus that on where the rides actually tend to occur, and those do tend to be during the peak hours. So we are recommending 2 a.m. Peak trips and
2 a.m. and 2 p.m. trips. Why bother? Just cancel it completely. You know, if you're gonna have 2 trips a day, why even bother? Just cancel it. You know, nobody's gonna. You know, it's useless at that point.
2 p.m. peak trips. The next slide. The next route is line 32. This serves Oregon City. And this is a route where you can see there we go to Beaver Creek and Highway 213 and then to Clackamas Community College. Today, after we turn onto Highway 213, we don't have any more stops. So we're just deadheading to Clackamas Community College and then dropping off and picking up students there. If we can go to the next slide and show our proposal, since we wouldn't miss any stops, what we would like to do is have the line go down to Oregon City High School and serve the high school, go along Myers Road, which has recently been extended to Clackamas Community College. And so we would be accessing Clackamas Community College now from the south.
Well, that looks like a decent change, right? I mean, they're not picking up anybody anyway. So this is kind of a service extension. Of course, they're going to inconvenience. See, he just said he just said in the last slide that we don't want to inconvenience our riders, so we're going to eliminate these loops. And then the next slide, he's inconveniencing these riders by adding this. So I mean, they're just inconsistent about their point of view.
We would not be impacting any riders. It does add about a minute of travel time for our customers.
A minute's nothing anyway.
Next slide. And the next change we have here is on line 39, which serves Lewis and Clark College. You know, we like to have our layovers at the end of the line, but in this case, there's no place for us to do that at the Lewis and Clark Graduate School of Education. And what happens is we have to turn the bus around in a very narrow parking lot and then go back up to that other loop where we lay over. However, we really don't get many riders.
I thought that bus laid over at the Fred Meyer at Bertha.
Lewis and Clark Graduate School. And in fact, what happens is we tend to drop people off, but then nobody gets on there, or not very few people get on there because they know they would have to wait through a layover at the northern loop. So what they do is they walk up to the northern loop from the college. And so if we go to the next slide, you would see, that's what we would do now. We would just do that loop, and students could walk to the graduate school through the campus, by the way. And the next slide, we have just a few more left. Okay, this is line 63, Washington Park, we heard about earlier. Thank you to Heather McCary from Explore Washington Park for speaking on behalf of this.
So
this idea actually came from Explore Washington Park. They recognized that we were duplicating service within the park. This is what we do today. We are the blue line, and they operate the pink and white line there. And if we go to the next slide, what we are proposing to do is rather than duplicate service, we would be responsible for bringing people from downtown to the park by the bus, or of course we know we also serve them via MAX to the Oregon Zoo, and then Explore Washington Park would circulate through the park. As Heather mentioned, during the busiest times of the year, they operate 10-minute service and they are free of charge. So they are very popular, more popular than our service, and this way it allows us to maximize. Just in reference to some of the comments about the Arlington Heights.
The only thing is here, okay, the other, you know, you could get on the 63 bus and it would take you downtown. Now you have to make a goddamn transfer using this zoo bus. So that's inconveniencing the riders, but apparently more people take it than there is anyway.
Neighborhood. We too are concerned about them and getting students to school and people to work. I would note that about half the ridership in that Arlington Heights neighborhood, the stop, about half the ridership gets on and off at a bus stop that is just around the corner from where the new route would operate by the Japanese garden. So, and the Rose Test Garden. So many of those riders would just walk, you know, a very short distance to access the bus.
Yeah, whatever.
Next slide, please.
Oh, yeah.
Just a couple more here. This one you've also heard a bit about. This is the Hollywood Transit Center. As you know, the Hollywood Transit Center is being prepared for a new development with affordable.
Right, they're giving up the Hollywood Transit Center to developers. That's what they're doing, and it's just a terrible crime as far as I'm concerned. But these are our neoliberal leaders. You know, we're stuck with these fucking parasites. And only when the whole system comes down like a house of cards is it going to change. I don't know how far we are away from that. I don't think we're that far away from it.
Housing. This would require Trimet to vacate the Hollywood Transit Center, and we would stop on street. We are working with the developers to design bus pullouts along the Hollywood Transit Center in the eastbound direction. That would allow for us to operators to dwell for time if they're running.
Terrible, terrible disgrace. This really here is Trimet in a nutshell. Disregarding the riders for the developers. This is the whole ball of wax right in front of your face. This is what Trimet actually is. The riders are secondary to the developers, and it's playing out right here. Now, the drivers will love this, of course. I mean, now they don't have to come in there. And that transit center was a pain in the ass. I remember it myself. But this is bad for the riders. And Jim Howell, you know, you're pushing people off your system. I know you don't care because you're a development agency, not a transit system. But this is a terrible. This is the microcosm of what Trimet really is. And they serve the needs of the developers, not the needs of the people. And this is a perfect example of that.
Early. If we could go to the next slide and show our proposal, you'll notice also the blue line, line 77, we are proposing that bus line not go to Broadway. Again, that is a deviation that takes customers out of direction. It does serve, as Jim Howell mentioned, the Hollywood East apartment complex. But as Jim also mentioned, it is about a block and a half walk from Hollywood East to Halsey Street, which we believe is a reasonable walk for people. Yeah. Even for seniors and people on mobility devices,
sure.
We believe that that can be done.
You believe
as they are probably walking that
sure,
distance.
Anything can be done. Why even have the fucking bus at all? That can be done. They'll figure it out, man. They'll do what they all do when you get rid of the service. They find another way to get around. That's the whole mantra of Trimet. Find another way to get around because you're not going to be using us. We're inconvenient. We're infrequent. And we don't give a fuck about you, the rider.
At the other end of their trip as well. Okay, the next slide, please. This will be our final line. This is lines 93 and 94 that run between, 93 runs between Sherwood and Tigard, and 94 runs between Sherwood and downtown Portland. So they duplicate each other. And what we would like to do, Jeff, the next slide, please, is just merge them into one line. Every trip would go into downtown.
So why didn't they do that from the very beginning? What were they? You see what I'm trying to say here? These bureaucrats, they just change things around because that's what they do. Well, we have to pretend we're doing something, so let's just change things around. This year we'll do this. And then we'll have this presentation and, we'll shove this down everybody's throats and there's nothing they can do about it. I mean, some of us were shaking our heads when they changed the 12, that went all the way from Sherwood all the way to the airport, all the way to Gresham. They broke it up.
Line 93 and 94 run local service between Sherwood and Tigard. And then between Tigard and downtown, the 94 today is an express service into downtown between Tigard and Portland. So it would continue to do that It would just have a few extra trips because we would be merging the 93 with it. With this, we've also surveyed other riders because the weekend service is a little bit different. The service would remain the same on the weekend. And the next slide, please.
Painful.
Okay, so now we get into the 15, and the 15 is complicated, so feel free to ask questions. There are really two major proposals with line 15. The first proposal is with downtown, which our last speaker mentioned. If we can see the next slide, as you see, the westbound direction is separated from the eastbound direction in downtown by 5 blocks. So if you get off on Washington, you have to walk 5, depending on where you get off, you have to walk 5 blocks to catch the bus going in the other direction at the end of the day. Typically, you want to have this kind of couplet only 1 block apart. The next slide.
After 50 years, they come to this conclusion. It's only been 50 years, and we've decided we're going to do this.
Slide, please. And so that is what we are proposing. We are proposing to make these the eastbound direction only be 1 block apart from the westbound direction. As mentioned in the comments, we are working with the City of Portland to put in bus lanes along Alder Street to allow our buses to get through the traffic and access the Morrison Bridge quicker. Next slide. And the impact of that does mean that for people who live or work along Salmon, they will have to walk up to Alder to catch the bus in eastbound direction. However, they're already walking that distance at least for 1 leg of their trip. They're walking the 5 block distance. So it is, we believe that it is appropriate to make this change. And then now is the last set of slides. If we can switch, there we go. So this is the proposal you've probably heard
end
the
of that
most
loop
about, at least in terms of emails and letters. This is also on line 15. This is up in Northwest Portland. What's interesting about this line is it has 3 tails. The first tail goes up to the Northwest Industrial District.
This used to be it used to either go to Montgomery Park or Thurman. They changed it so that it goes all the way down here. I don't know how long ago that was. But it used to just have 2 legs, and they moved it all the way. This 17 used to go over here. I don't know where the 17 goes anymore. I mean, they just move stuff around because that's what they do. They don't have, that's their job. Let's move this around this year, and we'll move that around next year. And these are the owners of your transit system. This guy in the bottom left-hand corner, he owns your transit system. He makes all the decisions. He pretends he's in charge, but he's just a hack. This guy's doing all the planning, and they get things their way. And these people over here just rubber stamp.
What's Guion Street? The second tail goes to Montgomery Park, and the third tail goes to the Thurman Street leg. And that's what the proposal focuses on here. The Thurman Street leg has been in operation since Trimet has been in existence, actually before Trimet has been in existence. However, one of the problems we have is that when we get to the end of the line, we can't turn the bus around.
What are you talking about? I drove that route. I turned it around. They've been turning around there since the beginning of Trimet. Now all of a sudden they can't turn around.
We actually operate a 3-point turn in this direction. This is against our standard operating procedures.
Yeah, after 50 years. After 50 years. This is our standard operating procedures after 50 years. God, it just amazes me to listen to these people.
And really against best industry practices. Additionally, west of 29th Avenue, the ridership is quite low. We go up 35 times a day, up and down, so round trip 35 times a day, and we pick up less than 1 person per trip.
Really? That bad?
So what we would like to propose,
so we've gone
next
down.
slide, please.
I used to pick up more than that when I used to drive that, and that was that was like 15 years ago. Never picked up a lot, but it was like a half a dozen people per trip.
Is that the Thurman segment, all those trips that currently go to the Thurman segment would still go up Northwest 23rd, but then they would hold their layover at Wilson Street. Now, the reason we don't send them to Montgomery Park is because it's full. We can't fit any more buses in there. But we do have space at that Wilson Street area.
What's over there?
And then next slide, we would propose replacing the Thurman Street
why bother
with a new bus line. We'll call that line 26. That's what we call it in the ordinance that we're asking you to approve. And we would operate this line from Gordon Street with a smaller bus, a 30-foot bus. This would allow us to do a U-turn, and we wouldn't have to make a 3-point turn. I should point out, over the last 10 years, new homes have been built in the area where we're making the 3-point turn. And though we don't have it on video, we don't have eyewitnesses, we know that mailboxes have been struck, a telephone pole has been struck, even our own bus stop sign has been struck. And again, we don't have video of us doing it, but we may be the culprit. With a 30-foot bus, we can conduct a U-turn, and we wouldn't have that problem. We do recommend going to 18th and 19th because that is a growing district within Northwest, and we wouldn't be reducing service on Northwest 23rd Street. However, because of the low ridership and because so much of the Thurman segment is within close proximity of Vaughn Street and 23rd Street, we recommend just focusing on the trips that have the highest ridership. And that would be 2 trips in the morning.
Yeah, why bother? Why bother? Just get rid of it. 2 trips in the morning, 2 trips in the... Just get rid of it. Stop pretending that we're going to service it. You've just destroyed it, okay? Nobody's going to ride it 2 trips in the morning and 2 trips in the afternoon. That's why bother. Eliminate it completely.
Trips in the...
You know, they do that to make it sound like they're, well, we care about you. See, we're going to give you this bus. But it's pointless endeavor. Nobody's going to ride it.
Keep. If we can go to the next slide. So what that means is if you kind of look everywhere at the purple box, that purple box is a quarter-mile walk distance from the existing line 15, the red line there. So people living in that area would still be able to access the line 15. And that is about 85% of the ons and offs on Thurman Street today. The other 15% are further up the hill and would have to rely on line 26. And as I mentioned, most of those boardings and alightings take place in the highest ridership or highest number of boardings and alightings take place in the peaks. And that's where we would propose focusing the service. Next slide, please. I know that was a lot. I'll just talk real quickly about the outreach. We did 2 rounds of outreach in the fall and the winter. Our outreach is focused online. We also send postcards to all the homes and businesses within a quarter mile of affected routes for each of those outreach processes. We held 3 open house meetings, 2 in English and 1 in Spanish. As I mentioned, an onboard survey. We've spoken to neighborhood associations and the different advisory committees. Next slide, please. We've also reached out to community-based organizations. We've provided information to them, and we have confirmed that they have forwarded that information to their clientele. With COVID, we typically will contract with 1 or more pre-COVID, we would contract with more than 1 community-based organization and have open house meetings in person. We haven't been able to do that, but they have been very kind in forwarding our information to their membership. And the next slide, please. And with that outreach, I won't go through everything, but you...
Okay. Look at this. This is good. Line 11, 2 comments. 1 of them supported and 1 of them didn't care. Line 15, Thurman. That's 121 comments there. 55% of which said no. Okay, that's significant. Line 15 Alder. Split down the middle. That sounds about right. Rex Loop, people, 23 comments. Union Manor, 6 so not 1 person wanted to keep, that's suspicious. Line 32, I don't know anything. Line 39, anything with less than 10 comments isn't even anything. 63 had 32 comments heavily against it. 32. That's all the comments they got for the Hollywood TC. That's pathetic. 2-1 against.
You can see that it's a mixed bag. There, you know, some of the lines where you've seen letters and emails in opposition really are more mixed than maybe what you have seen. Oftentimes, when people support something, they don't write a letter to the board, and there is some neutral support. I will point out the Union Manor 100% support. That was after we worked with management at Union Manor to revise the proposal. So with that in mind, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Carl Green, and I do want to address one thing that came up during the public comment, and it was accurate. We made a mistake with our board memo or ordinance memo. We were running drafts back and forth between several of us, and the drafts got mixed up. And the portion that talks about the Title VI report is from an old ordinance. We actually, during this meeting, we have gone ahead and we have replaced that information with the accurate information that Carl will be speaking about here in a minute. But I do want to stress that the ordinance itself is accurate. It was just the board memo that was inaccurate, and we will make sure that the memo will be, you will have the revised memo by the second reading. Carl?
All right.
Thank you, Tom. Fellow director.
I don't want to hear any more right now. I want to show you, I did my own video about the Hollywood Transit Center. Let's see if I can find it here. Here it is. Here's how I view it, okay? All right, Mr. Smarty Pants. Look, here, I don't know, can you see my pointer? See, right here. Here's the max, okay? Can you see this? It's got a blue right there. So they have to walk. Look at how ridiculous this is. They have to walk down this bridge, down these stairs. This is where they used to get on the bus, right here. See these three blue squares? Now they have to walk all the way out to Halsey. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah. What is it? I get so excited I choke. Yeah, look at, that's like, they've just destroyed the Hollywood Transit Center connection. And they did it for a developer. And that's what I have the real problem with. But as I said, we know where Trimet, who they serve, and it ain't you.